President Obama wants to double U.S. exports in the next 5 years. Is that still on track with changes on Capitol Hill? The U.S. Trade Representative Ron Kirk joins us live from the National Press Club in Washington. Mr. Ambassador, welcome to Bloomberg News. Thank you for joining us.
Mark, it's good to be with you and Julie as well. Thank
you.
You
spoke at the press club today, and you said in part the president has set a goal to double American exports in the next 5 years, an accomplishment which would support 2 million additional jobs. Exactly how does Mr. Obama plan on doing that?
Well, we're going to have to deploy a number of strategies, Mark. And in addition to setting that goal for us in the State of the Union address, the president also outlined what he called a national export initiative. And he's actually creating an export promotion cabinet. And he's asked those of us at USTR to work with the Small Business Administration, the Department of Commerce, the Export-Import Bank, Treasury, and other federal agencies to craft a much more focused, strategic, targeted way to help us meet this goal.
Mr. Ambassador, you just mentioned the word strategic. Are you planning on changing strategies to accomplish this goal?
Well, we won't. At USTR, Mark, we'll do what we've been doing best, and we focus on accessing and opening up these new markets. So we'll continue to work on enforcing the rights of America's exporters to markets that we may have been denied access to in our existing free trade agreements. We will look to see if we can't bring closure to the pending free trade agreements with Colombia, Panama, and Korea. And then we're also looking forward at new opportunities, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region. And we're just beginning the early dialogues and negotiation towards the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Mr. Ambassador, how are you going to bring those free trade agreements to a close that you just mentioned? What are the remaining obstacles, and what's holding all of this up?
Well, Julie, one of the things we've been doing, frankly, is engaging Congress, stakeholders, and talking to people all around the country to more honestly understand what some of their concerns were in the case of each of these free trade agreements. In the case of Panama, there was an issue of their tax status having been challenged by the OECD over their lack of transparency, and some concerns about labor, the strength of their labor laws. In the case of Colombia, as you know, many have voiced concern about the extraordinary violence perpetrated against union organizers. And in the case with Korea, frankly, Democrats and Republicans have just found it unacceptable to have such a gross disparity in the 700,000 Korean automobiles sold in the United States versus the less than 7,000. But in each case, we're engaging members of the public, stakeholders, to see if we can't identify what those concerns with, then come up with acceptable resolutions that we can then go back to Congress and tell them we believe these agreements are in a shape they can go forward, because every one of them has real economic and job-creating opportunities for us.
Well, of course, you also are going to have to perhaps win over some more folks in your own party. What effect also is the replacement of Charlie Rangel with Sander Levin going to have on the trade agenda, because he is someone who's not necessarily been as open to some of these free trade agreements in the past?
Well, I want to be careful. Notwithstanding, I'm not making any comments about the ethical challenges facing Chairman Rangel, but he has been a great friend, and he was a great leader, particularly a very open mind on trade, because he understood the power of our engaging the world in a commercial way to help us to create good-paying jobs here. And I would tell you that no one has reached out to me earlier and engaged our office more regularly, frankly, than now Chairman Levin. And I had the opportunity to join Congressman Levin in Detroit just a couple of weeks ago with Governor Granholm. And I believe that Chairman Levin does understand the value proposition of trade. They just want to make sure that we get it right.
Mr. Ambassador, we have about 30 seconds left. Brazil's trade minister says that his government's going to talk about that trade dispute with you next week. Brazil's government saying yesterday it plans to raise tariffs on 102 U.S. exports. How are you going to resolve that?
Well, Mark, we have met with Brazil monthly, almost weekly. I was in Brazil and met with their commerce minister and Celso Amorim last summer. As you know, Secretary of State Clinton was just there, and we have Mike Froman and Secretary Locke in Brazil, even as we speak.
Right.
We would very much like to avoid these retaliatory tariffs. We'll continue to work and engage with Brazil to see if we can't find an acceptable compromise.
The U.S. Trade Representative Ambassador Ron Kirk joining us from the National Press Club in Washington. Mr. Ambassador, thank you so much.
Mark, Julie, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.